Hey everybody, this is Jim at SP500chart.com. It's about 4:30 on Sunday afternoon, the last day of May 2020, and we're going to take a look at the past week. Before we do, let me just read this to you first. The website and the video are for educational purposes only. Nothing stated at the site or in this video is intended to be used as investment advice. I control lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I am not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy who draws lines on charts. So let's take a look. What I was going to say before I paused and just read the little disclaimer thing was, you notice on Wednesday and Thursday I did not do a video. And when you look at this video, I think you'll understand why. And to be quite frank with you, Monday's video would work just as well for today, because the week did exactly what we thought it was going to do with a slight alteration. And that is, the alteration is, we were higher this week than I thought we would be. I really thought we might edge higher and then come down and tag one of these support lines here. And now I'm going to have to tell you, I rather suspect that will happen this week. Could I be wrong? Absolutely, I could be wrong. Remember, the trend lines, first, are not impenetrable barriers. They are not brick walls. They're not those metal barricades that they use around United States installations where they do nuclear research. Sometimes they're just a speed bump, and a bad one at that. So keep that in mind. So we have these trend lines on the chart. We spent the entire week in the same relationship to every single trend line that is on this chart. Okay, so where did our week begin? Well, it was a short week because we had the Memorial Day holiday, and we stayed under this line, we stayed over this line, and we stayed over this line. So that meant that coming into the week, we thought if everything does as expected, we would stay within this boundary right here, and that is precisely what happened. So when it came to the video on Wednesday, right here, I just said, well, what the heck? Same thing really as Tuesday. I said Monday, by the way. I spoke in error. Tuesday. And then when we had the Thursday's action where we continued that move up and then we kind of slid back down. Same thing. We're still under this line, over this one, still looking likely to test support at either this line or this one. And now Friday, here we are, essentially in the same in the same position. There's only one difference here. And I think it's a distinction that's worth making, and I did not make it on Thursday, but I'll make it now. And that is that on both actually Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, on all three of those days, we closed over 3,000. And that's not magical, but I think it might be worth mentioning because 3,000 might have been a psychological barrier to some people, and now that we're over 3,000, they may be thinking to themselves, wow, maybe this is reversing in earnest at this point. So, do you remember we've had a couple targets on this chart? We had this target back here, which was from that cup and handle. We'll back out just a little bit more so you see that. There's the cup, there's the handle, there's the breakout, there's the target, about 3170. You'll look at this consolidation pattern that we were in for about a month and a half, or maybe a little bit less than that. We broke out from that, 2 weeks ago, and it has a target about 31.74. Now, when we made this call right here, we did that back in the second week of April. We were down around 2,700, the low 2,700s. And look how far we've come since that. We're up about 300 points. We're up more than 10% from where that call was made. And I believe we will finish that target and get up to about 31.70. And in so doing, the chart proves again, assuming we do make that it's worth looking at and studying. Finally, I believe this is resistance. I believe this is support. At some point, this line will break because we can't go up at that strong a rate of return, or we would be looking for something like 60 to 65% returns on the year. Ain't gonna happen. But this line still helps us know when we're going to likely, I think probably, break this line in order to consolidate to continue our move upwards. So really, it was a very good week. Things behaved, things did what we thought they were going to do, and it appears just a little bit, just one more little slight distinction over the past 3 weeks. And I'm talking about the week that starts on the 11th, the week starting on the 18th, and of course on the 26th. And here's what I've noticed. During the previous weeks, we had tons of gaps all throughout the week. Gap, 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 just scattered gaps. However, the past 3 weeks, there have been no gaps in the days in those weeks. There's been gaps from Friday to Monday, or from Friday to Tuesday. But once we get to where we are with that Monday open, that kind of choppiness that we saw back in this consolidation pattern, at least for the past 3 weeks, we haven't seen it. Even when we were down the week of the 11th, there really weren't any measurable gaps. There might have been a small one Monday to Tuesday, but very, very small. And you can clearly see that 2 weeks ago, or week before this past week, we gapped up, went sideways. This past week, we gapped up, went sideways to up. So, I don't know. What do you think? Think we're going to gap tomorrow? If so, my money says probably a gap down. But what do I know? You know, I'm just looking at these charts and scribbling on them. So look, I think I'm just going to let it rest at that. Remember, still targets up around 31.70, and and I think we make that. Remember, this line right here is the old neckline from a failed inverted head and shoulders pattern. If we get over that line, and we should, you know, maybe eventually we look at everything that's happened over the past 6 months or so, and or maybe even longer, and maybe we look at all of this sort of in a retrospect, and maybe we spot something else going on here. But for right now, I would say let's just keep watching it together, and we'll see. You know, at some point we're going to see some support lines break. Let me go to that 30-minute version and scoot this line to its proper position. There we go. And but for right now, hey, thanks for taking time out of your weekend to watch this. Thank you for your support, and thanks for giving me a couple days off. I may do that from time to time because it's I don't want to insult your intelligence by just harping on the exact same thing. And if I feel like that's what I have to say, rather than actually doing it, I think I'll just respect your intelligence more and just make a brief note for the day saying we're in the same position that we have been. So anyway, hey, thanks for watching and thanks for your support.